hold, I'm going back. Okay. Hold up, I'm going down. Okay. Hold, I'm coming back. And hold up, I'm going down. Okay. So, liver is of course to do with internalized frustration, anger, and it's when we don't let other people see it. And then what it can do is impact. So 1 to 3 a.m, as you know, 1 to 3 a.m. is liver time. So when we're waking up between 1 and 3, quite often there's an issue with the liver. The livers can absolutely regenerate and be supported and move on. But quite often it's about letting go as well. 2 things linked in with the liver meridian. 1, that the pleasure reward centers are being switched off, and 2, there's still some frustration and anger in there. Okay. So energetically, because you've lost your flexibility, you know, with the pain, emotionally the flexibility is not being as, well, we're not being as flexible as well. So it's showing up within the identity, self-identity sort of area. Needing to calm those down. But yeah, the 4 liver tests, there's phase 1, phase 2 liver detoxification, as well as liver not coping with dealing with fats and proteins, as well as liver not coping with stress hormones. And when we're not coping with stress hormones, we just recycle them. They keep going round and round in the body. And then the brain wants to run away. Escape, submission, freeze. Because why would you want to be there when you're feeling the same emotions over and over again? They're enough fun the first time.
Not sure what the time is at the moment. Super tired. Can't get by it.
Yeah, okay. I think it's Wednesday night.
Yeah, that was 1 o'clock in the morning at 5.
Kidneys is showing up as well. Okay. Well, I suppose it makes sense if the liver isn't dealing with stress hormones and the liver isn't detoxifying properly, then that will put pressure on the kidneys because they're just the next filter after the liver. Hold up for me, and hold, right. And hold. Yeah, so the kidneys are about fear and anxiety. Like bladder before, which showed up, bladder's about externalized fear and anxiety, the type that people can see, like it's palpable. Kidneys, it's when we suck it all up and we just hide it away and try to put on that brave face. But that fear feeds the liver energy, so quite often in underneath frustration and anger of the liver is fear. And like we said earlier on, it's fear that things aren't going to improve, fear that we're going to be stuck in this body that isn't working 100% for us for the rest of our lives.
Just check the celestial second.
Okay.
When you're doing that, liver kidney, action is gone.
Okay. Rebooting celestial circuit. Yeah, no. Yeah, so this time it's off on the left, which is more the caring, nurturing side. And maybe because the body hasn't been kind in the last few years, you know, the idea of being able to care and nurture someone else is just too exhausting for the body. Maybe not, it might be something else.
Suddenly that's self-nurturing, it's sort of like we can nurture everybody else, but self-nurturing is a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Guilt around, as we all have.
Guilt around looking after yourself.
Well, yeah, we also, been brought up to look after everybody else first, and when it comes to looking after ourselves, we then feel a bit guilty around that.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got everybody else to look after, blah blah.
I had a lady yesterday who I asked about looking after herself. What do you do just for you? And immediately it was all about the hubby and the kids. She wasn't even ready to go at the thought of her having time for herself or doing something just for her. Okay, so what do you do just for you? And hold. Beautiful. Okay, so now let's go check the adrenals. Okay. Hold. Survival switching. Hold. Deep survival. Hold. Okay. And hidden deeps. Oh, right. There's some energy in there though.
Yeah.
It's
Spongy.
yeah, so you've done a lot of work obviously. Okay, so where's this pattern stored? EMC, MMC, PVSS. And with chronic pain and stress that makes sense because it's sensory overload. Stacking the sixth sense as well. Okay, so anterior cingulate gyrus is the little nuclei in the brain, hold, that wants us to be perfect all the time under stress. So it's that little part of the brain that gives us a hard time. Probably when we can't be everything to everyone and then have guilt about it or, you know, just... So there's escape in there, so the brain doesn't like feeling bad. This little part of the brain sets up a lot of obsessions and compulsions, and it's the part that is morally evaluating ourselves. It's not about other people, although we somehow get ourselves in a moral hierarchy within our brain anyway. We know where we are in relation to our family and friends along those lines. This is the part of the brain that does that and then picks on ourselves when we're not perfect. The next little area is the orbitofrontal cortex. So this little one is to do with when there's something in your head ticking around, hold out, that just won't disappear. And these two areas are to do with genetic memories, so they might not even be your stuff, they could be someone else's in the genetic family history. That orbitofrontal cortex is about conflicting emotions. Do I, don't I, hate someone, love someone, you know, all of those sort of things that just make our brains work really hard. But definitely the sort of area that stops us sleeping in the middle of the night with unresolved stress that we just can't get out of our minds. Subclossal gyrus is also showing up. Which is to do with the genetic rage and anger pathway, but it's also to do with depression, so it's everything on that genetic line from it's basically how we cope with stress. and how our ancestors up to 7 generations have coped with stress as well. But for you, it's just linked in with fear, so there's a real fear in there. So the brain probably doesn't like getting angry.
I'm not sure if you live by the river, but my head has just started singing down by the banks of the old Ohio. So I don't know whether the river has some significance for you or whether it's just popped in and
Nice.
or you need to go sit by the river for your own nurturing.
Yeah.
I'll try not to sing it out loud.
I need some more sensory input, so I'll stack in the wrists and the thumbs again. And I'll do that area in the lower back. And I'll stack in the knees again. Yeah, okay. So the reticular activating system is the next little area, and this is to do with chronic stress, so it's linked in with noradrenaline, turning down or dampening your serotonin levels. I mean, molds can get across the blood-brain barrier and cause anxiety and stress and all sorts of things, as can histamines. So when we're feeling stressed and depressed, histamine can cross the blood-brain barrier as well. Try it, because you can't have anxiety or stress or depression without an inflamed brain. So histamine is one of the nutrients, along with cholesterol and things like that help to heal the brain. It's not a second circuit. That blows my mind. Anyway, that's okay. Normally I get several RAS circuits, but not with this one. That's cool. Or there's something else more important. Okay. I need a tuning fork combination. Okay, so what's the first coordinate? Oh, brain. Hold up for me. Hold up. So that's the central meridian. Feeds the conscious brain. Lungs. Right, so it's going to be a long fork and a short one. So lungs is about grief, guilt, regret. So it's grief, guilt, regret affecting the conscious brain. That will get more specific. Yeah, okay, so the combination of those, so because of the grief, guilt, regret in the background, the brain has this idea that making decisions is bad for you, because if you make a decision, you're going to make the wrong decision, so therefore it's easier to be indecisive. So, devil's claw is the flower essence. Devil's claw is a desert flower, and it's to, yeah, right. Funnily enough, it's all about how, I've always thought of devil's claw about an internalized anger about something, and it's sort of to do with our own magnetism and how we use it to get other people to do what we want. As women, we're always trying it in some way or another. Let's have a look. Transcend. right. So it's really about a lack of confidence at the core. So I'll just read it. Throat chakra. Try to do it softly. I take responsibility for my attitudes and now choose to kindly, gently, lovingly and supportively transcend how I allow myself to fall prey to another's persuasion and how I change myself to fit my illusion of what others think of me into all-encompassing love. I make the commitment to kindly, gently, lovingly and supportively take responsibility for owning who I am, show a quiet confidence that inspires and nurtures others, easily give of myself to others, and rest confidently in a knowledge of my essential identity. So if you think about the energy in the hands, sort of like the hands and the wrists, you know, and trying to grab and grasp onto life or what you're losing in life, even the energy association with molds, you know, creating that real ill health, that chronic fatigue, the chronic pain in after. There's something about your nervous system. So if you think about autoimmunity, the immune system's attacking yourself. And when we don't have our own confidence and belief in ourselves, we're doing that to ourselves as well energetically. So your immune system's just following the guidance from your mind that's saying you're not worthy, you're not confident. And especially now with grandbabies, you want to show a confident side of yourself so that that's the impression they have of you. You're someone they can look up to and go, she's a pretty cool, don't know what you're called, grandma, grandy, nana, Oma. But yeah, it was throat chakra, which tends to indicate an inability to speak your truth or speak your mind, or even when you've been in chronic ill health for a long time, the last thing you want to do is talk about your health as well, because you go, oh, here we go again. So yeah, devil's claw. That's better. Good. Okay, so now subcolossal gyrus is shown up again. That's the one to do with genetically how we deal with rage and anger. But because it's shown up a second time, I'll check if there's another coordinate that gets a bit deeper. There is. Okay, so this one's more to do with a tameness, a broken spirit, a time when your energy was just shattered and your true self started to fade away. It's actually seemingly to be genetically from your dad's side, but your dad's side, and it's the masculine again, so dad's dad. So where something has happened along that family tree that has, because usually with the subcolossal gyrus, especially when there's a tameness or a broken spirit or something in there, something will have happened where obviously they might have had to have done something they didn't want to do, or had no, and most often it's when they've got no choice, you know, when, you know, young, there's they're wanting to run away.
Yeah, especially what come back then, there were so many wars that they were in, civil wars, all sorts of wars, and if people were under orders to do things that was really against what they wanted to do, but
You have
you
no
had
choice.
to do what you were commanded.
Yeah, and obviously with the studies these days, like things like the ACEs study, that Adverse Childhood Events study, that shows the impact of one trauma and how it impacts down the genetic tree. My brother's a GP, and he was saying that personally he's seen, you know, these guys who come back from, say, the Vietnam War, and then he sees those guys, their families, and he sees all this mental health issues, you know, OCDs and autisms and anxieties and depression, you know, through the family tree. It's very common, unfortunately. And there's a real fear of it continuing. But it was your dad's dad's dad, so up through the masculine line, and you can imagine, certainly is not masculine to talk about how you're feeling. Gotta suck it up, princess, and not discuss it. And how often do grandparents and great-grandparents, quite often they just never speak about those traumas in their early life. Okay, I need to connect the two sides of your amygdala. And hold out. We're just about ready to close the circuit. But yeah, fear just, so there's several million connections from the left to right amygdala, and the amygdala is when we're under stress, and our brain only has 1/500th of a second to think logically and creatively about something. So if the amygdala then gets activated, the connections between the left and right side of the amygdala allow us to be both emotionally creative and creatively emotional as well as logically creatively. So you get more input from your brain for a solution. Okay, so let's recheck the adrenals. Hold, and hold, and hold. Beautiful. Double check your immune system. If your immune system's happy, your brain will be happier. Fantastic. And I'll check your chakras as well. And double check your organs. Okay. All cooked. Did you want to close off?
This balance for the highest and best good for Debbie and all timelines and dimensions of her and through all family trees.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Let me know about the river.